Some things naturally go together. Fish and chips, salt and vinegar, Christianity and the cross. Christianity and the cross. Well, this is what we celebrate on Good Friday. And yet when you think about it, to celebrate the cross, a crucifixion, is strange. We're celebrating the death of an innocent man. Why? What's so significant? Well, the Gospel of Mark doesn't go into all the details on the brutality of the cross. So what he includes is a little bit, but must be very important. So what does Mark say? Well, at verse 33 of Mark 15, at the 6th hour, darkness came over the whole land until the 9th hour. So the 6th hour is 12 o'clock, it's noon. And darkness has come over the whole land from 12 to 3. Why? Well, clearly this is a supernatural act of God. And why is that? Well, because darkness actually represents God's judgment. Has done in the past, and in the Old Testament, actually, the 10 plagues that were put on Egypt so that the Israelites could be rescued, one of the plagues of judgment was darkness. In fact, the darkness plague came just before the final plague, which was the killing of the firstborn, which was where the Israelites killed the sacrificial lamb instead and put the blood in the doorpost so they could be rescued. So the darkness fell before the final Passover lamb is sacrificed. What we have here is the darkness coming before Jesus, our Passover lamb, is sacrificed. Do you see, the whole Old Testament is building up to this event. Years of prophecies, predictions leading to this, the most important event of all of history, Christ's death on the cross. Because on the cross, Jesus was taking the judgment, the darkness, the punishment, the cup of God's wrath, as we learned, in our place. What else do we learn that happens at the cross? Well, verse 34. And at the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? So Jesus cries out, why have you forsaken me? And that's actually another quotation from the Old Testament, from Psalm 22, a Psalm of David. And Jesus is fulfilling scripture here. Again, everything's leading up to his death on the cross. Years, centuries past. And what he cries out is really beyond our comprehension. He cries out, why have you left me? In some mysterious way, Jesus was abandoned at the cross. Because abandonment is a form of judgment. Because on the cross, he was taking the judgment in our place. Forsaken. So that we don't have to be. And yet, did it work? Did all that Christ was doing and happening on the cross work? Well, look at what Mark includes. Look at what he says in verse 37. With a loud cry, Jesus breathed his last. So as Jesus voluntarily, willingly gives up his life and breathes his last, as the camera lens is on the cross, you know what happens? The camera lens swings round to the temple, which is inside the city of Jerusalem. The cross is outside. And what do we read that happens in verse 38? The curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. So as Jesus breathes his last, as he gives up his life, we go to the temple, and the temple is a place where God dwells. And it had a place there called the most holy place, where God's presence was specially there. And what separated the most holy place from the rest of the temple was this massive curtain. Now, I've got a curtain here, but this curtain in the temple was nothing like this curtain. The curtain in the temple was 30 feet high. The curtain was all made of one material and was as thick as a man's hand. And the curtain was like a big no entry sign. You can't get into the presence of God because you're tainted, because you're flawed, you're sinful. And then, as Jesus breathes his last, the curtain is torn. The way into God's presence has been opened. And how was it torn? Do you see what it says? It actually says it was torn from top to bottom. Why? Because this was God doing the ripping. God was ripping the curtain from top to bottom so that we could have access into God's presence, so we could have a relationship with him because Jesus has died on the cross. He ripped it open so that we can have a relationship. That's what Christ was accomplishing. And he has done it all. You see, how do we know Christ has done it all? Because of this action. He died. The way into his presence is open. We don't contribute anything. He's paid it all. And how do we get the benefits of having this relationship with God, enjoying his presence? We just trust in Jesus and his work. We love him for what he has done. He's paid it all. And we turn to follow him. This is the good news of Good Friday. So the question we have to ask is, have you got that relationship with God, a real relationship? Do you know him personally? Because many people know about God. Many people know about all the events that have happened at Easter, but they haven't really rested and relied on his work alone on the cross. Do you know him personally? What does that look like? Well, it means admitting, yes, I have failed, I've done wrong, I've disobeyed God, but I am thankful for Christ's once and for all sacrifice, and I'm trusting in him alone. And yet that goes against the grain of what we naturally think, because we think I must do something to get myself into God's favor, to get into heaven. I have to contribute, do good works, do charity. But actually, no, he says, rest in my work alone. It's a gift. That's what grace is. Because actually, you see, if we say we have to do something, I need to do this, do you know what we're actually saying? We're actually saying that what Jesus has done on the cross, what he went through, suffering the judgment and crying out in his abandonment, what we're saying is, Jesus, you haven't done enough. Let me top that up. No, he has paid it all on Good Friday. And he rises again on Easter Sunday. So tell me, what are you going to do regarding the most significant event in all of history? If you want to know how you can have a relationship with God, have full assurance of sins forgiven, know for certain that you can be in heaven, enjoying God's presence forever, and that relationship begins now, well, do get in touch. Contact us through the website. We'd love to give you that opportunity, but all it is saying, I'm done wrong and I'm trusting in Jesus. And if you know that, if you have that assurance, if you're enjoying knowing God personally, well, marvel again at the privilege that we have access to God's presence, that we can know him personally, all because of what Christ has done on the cross for us, because he loves us so much. Enjoy that this Easter.